Slurp strength. All right, all right. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. You are now watching Boyz Sports Show. I am your host, Kyng Ralph, in the building. Solo dolo show, like I've gotten used to doing. But hope you all are doing well. And before we get started, I got to do all the pleasantries. So if you want to do a podcast like what you're watching, music video, photo shoot, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. Make sure as well you go like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff on all of the socials on the bottom ticker. But I'm going to say a few. Go like the Facebook page, the He Say She Say channel. The He Say She Say podcast will be coming back soon. I have a meeting with my co-host this week. And so within the next 3 to 4 weeks, you'll see things on the social media page as far as sharing what's coming soon with that one. Make sure you go subscribe at J.U.K Media, J.U.K Media on YouTube. Follow us at J.U.K Sports Show on Instagram, J.U.K Sports Show. And you can follow me at everything from Twitter, X, Twitch, Instagram. You add an underscore for Twitter, but everything else at KynGRALPH. And my bracket's busted, y'all. We're only first weekend in, and I did 2 brackets, to be fair. I know that's slightly cheating. I had a bracket do really well, and then I had one bracket that's struggling right now. And reason why it's struggling, Kentucky just couldn't do it, man. I had Kentucky. I thought that, and like I said before, I've said many times, if you have strong guard play, I think you can go far. But I did not expect Wagner Jr. What happened? No show almost. My man was out there for like 20 minutes, didn't put up a bucket. Um, Definitely zeroed out. Dillingham did what he was supposed to do, but they just weren't able to have. They didn't. They just their key players. Shepard, low key no show. Wags no show, and Dillingham just couldn't get it done by himself. My man J.U.K, I hope I'm saying it right, from Oakland. It's actually Oakland in Detroit, not or in Michigan. It might be Detroit, but it's not the Oakland out in the Bay. And my man hit 10 threes. He wasn't shooting nothing but threes, but he 32 points off the bench. And Kentucky goes down. And that's the part for me where my bracket is thrashed now. Um, I hate to say it, but I actually have another bracket where I'm like 95% accurate on that one. And that's the one where I just kind of went through it and did everything the opposite of what I did with the other bracket. But I had Kentucky in the championship game. They go down. I had Auburn beating Yale, and I hope I'm not destroying these names, but I'm gonna give it a shot. But we got Polikitis with 28 points, 6 for 9 from three, 10 from 15 from the field, and this is one of those things where if you have a player that can match the other team's best player, then as long as your other team can go, the team can come along with you, then you should be in a good spot. And I think ultimately it came down to, could Auburn's best player outmatch Yale's best player? And Yale it was able to eke out a victory 78-76. And James Madison did a little bit of the otherwise, where they just were the deeper team, I guess you could say. James Madison wins. I think they won 72 to like 61 or something like that. They had 4 players in double figures, where Wisconsin was really only able to get 3 that had about anywhere from like 10 to 15 points. And then the next guy after that was at 8 points. And it's like when you look at 4 players putting up 11 or more, and that's anywhere from 11 to 15, and then you're pretty much going to be able to outpace the other team, where they were able to get the victory. Clemson is another one that messed up my bracket. I had them losing to Baylor. Baylor had two players that just they did their thing, but they had three starters, two specifically, that were averaging 10 points that scored 3 points in this game. And when your starters who are supposed to be able to carry the load in a way, no Diddy is, and they come up short, there's not really much that you can do in that instance. And so, in actuality, Baylor, Wisconsin, Auburn, and Kentucky kill my bracket. But like I said, I got that second bracket that's doing very well right now. And so next up, before I get to the women, I'm gonna talk about the men's Sweet 16. And both sides have been very, very entertaining. The women's bracket has been holding it down. I'm actually very happy to see a lot of the stories, and I've been saying for the longest time that when it comes to women's sports, when we look at specifically like the tournament, we're so attached to the different stories that happen. I remember Florida Gulf Coast where they had a son and coach that were making this Elite Eight run from a small school, and it was such a cool thing. Then it was like Loyola Chicago. We had the Nun and what they were able to do and how far they were able to get in the tournament. And it's like you don't really have those stories like that when it comes to women's sports. So it's like now to see Alyssa Peely, even though her team lost, but how far she got, what she means to her community. The young lady that played at Iowa State with her dad passing away, and she's dedicating this game to her dad. And then just those things, you have those emotional connections, which also helps build popularity. And then it's been spicy out there too, as well. So I got the men's Sweet 16, number one, UConn up against number five, San Diego State. I got UConn. I still think UConn is just a better basketball team, better coached. I think they'll just be too much for San Diego, and I don't think it'll be able to. They'll be able to withstand it. Illinois, I believe they're number three, and Iowa State is the number two seed in the East bracket. And so I got Illinois. I think Illinois will be a little bit more physical um, on the inside, which will soften up Iowa State to where I think Illinois is going to be able to eke out this victory. So in the East bracket, to decide that, I guess you could say that coast or that side of the bracket. In the East bracket, I got UConn versus Illinois to decide that one. In the West bracket, we got University of North Carolina versus Bama. And I could see this one going either way, but in the end, I'm gonna go North Carolina. I've said that North Carolina and Arizona were on their way to a collision course. With Caleb Love being a former Tar Heel, now playing for Arizona, him going on his revenge tour. I think he'll be able to get that opportunity. Spoiler alert: I have Clemson losing to Arizona, but you never know when it comes to these Cinderella stories. So Arizona could fall, and Caleb Love not be looking too far ahead. But in the end, I got North Carolina over Bama. I got Arizona over Clemson, although I wouldn't be surprised to see Clemson get that victory. So in the West, I'm not going to go too far. I'm going to wait a little bit. And the show I do later in the week is where I'll say I'll decide who's winning the tournament and all of that. So in the South region, got number one Houston versus number four Duke. Y'all know I hate Duke, but there's a part of me that just feels like they're gonna win. Although, like deep down, I just feel I want to go with Houston. So I'm gonna go with Houston. I feel like the way that Houston plays defense, the way that they fly to the rim, rebounding physicality, I feel like they'll take the legs out from Duke in a way to where Duke's shooting and perimeter won't be able to dominate the game the way that they possibly could. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did because when you're able to shoot like that, all it takes is you to get hot and then the game's open. So I got NC State. At first, I went Marquette, but I really believe I just got this feeling about NC State. So I think NC State is actually going to defeat Marquette. And as I try to look up the young man's name, I brought him up before. Plays a lot like Zach Randolph, but I cannot think of young buddy's name. But I think the physicality on the inside and NC State being able to match Marquette. Let me see where it's at. Where it's at. Where it's at. Not that one. The next day. As I look up his name, because I actually want to give Buddy his props. DJ Horn, I believe is DJ. Nope, that is not. It is not DJ Horn, who is their leading scorer. But yeah, that's the reason why I got NC State. As I try to look up the player's name, I got NC State over Marquette. So I got Houston and NC State repping the South in the Southern region. Wait, nope. I don't want all the players from the tournament. I just want the players that are in this game. That's crazy. They did me dirty. I thought I had something there. But NC State versus Houston in the South region. Next up, I got in the Midwest region, I got Purdue versus the Zags. Like I mentioned before, I just believe Zach Edey is just going to be able to dominate his way until um, I think this is the region where I would have had Purdue. Originally, I had Purdue losing to Kentucky, which is why I had Kentucky coming out of here. But given the teams that are in front of me, and I got to do it based off of that, I got Purdue over the Zags. And then I got Tennessee. I got the Vols over Creighton. So in the Midwest, we're gonna get Purdue, who's low key getting the hometown discount, versus Tennessee in the Midwest region. And now we convert over to the women. We slide over to the women's side. And this bracket, everything happened the way that it should have for the most part. Middle Tennessee State was able to upset Louisville, and Duke was able to whip Ohio State. But those are really the only two games that the higher seed didn't win. And so I think everything's right on track where it's supposed to be. In the end, I'm still gonna ride with LSU, although I feel like the way that the South Carolina girls, they're doing their thing out there. So um and it's interesting because things go the way that I expect them to go. I think LSU is gonna get another shot at Iowa, and Iowa's gonna get a chance for their revenge. And so I got in region one, South Carolina versus Indiana. I think South Carolina is such a deep team. I think they're on a mission, given them coming up short last year. Another undefeated regular season. So I got South Carolina over Indiana. Notre Dame versus Oregon State. I got Notre Dame. I think their perimeter play is just going to be able to control the game, and I don't think Oregon State will be able to match that. So in the end, in Region One, I got South Carolina versus Notre Dame. In Region Four, I'm gonna go Texas over the Zags. I'm still kind of mad. The Zags, they beat Utah last night. My girl, I'm sad. Shout out to Bay, Alyssa Pilley, holding it down for the Samoans. In the Polynesian culture community. But yeah, they go down to Gonzaga last night. So I'm pissed off at Gonzaga. So we gonna go Texas. Then next up, we got NC State versus Stanford. I just think that Stanford is gonna have too much talent for NC State. So in this region, I got NC State going down to Stanford. So we got Texas, Stanford in Region 4. In Region 3, this and Region 2 will be my two favorite, my two most watched, because I want to see. There's two particular games that I want to see. From these two particular regions. Region 3, we got USC versus Baylor. Juju leading the troops, but they got a lot of talent. USC, the number one seed in that region, versus Baylor. But I think that in the end, I feel like their team is going to be too deep, too balanced, and USC is going to be the victor over Baylor. Another one who is pretty much a freshman phenom, Paige I've been saying Bukers. I heard them last night saying Beckers. I hope I'm saying it correctly, but Paige Beckers, Bukers, over Duke and UConn. The UConn Huskies over Duke, leading up to this matchup that I've been wanting to see. Paige versus Juju. I have to go and look to see if they play the same position. Um, because I'm not sure if they do. Let's see. So, because I know she's about, she's a little small for Juju, but I'd like to see them matched up regardless, because I believe Juju's like 6'2", where Paige is 6 foot even. So I still would like to see them match up against each other. I think that's going to be a dope for the sport. And this is one of the reasons why I've been saying that the women's college basketball, excuse me, has overtaken men's college basketball for whatever reason that you think, or whether or not you disagree or not. But just off the top of your head, think of how many men's college basketball players that you can name. Where on the women's end, I can go off Flage, I can go Angel Reese, I can go Haley Van Lith on all on one team, Paige Bukers, Juju, Caitlin Clark, Alyssa Pilley, like I mentioned, like I can go off on and name about 10 to 15, where I could probably get about five. And so I think these big names going head to head is what the sport needs. I love the spiciness, the trash talking. And so to complete, I'm gonna have in Region 3, I got USC, UConn, and then I got Iowa. Caitlin Clark and them girls going against Colorado. I believe Iowa and Caitlin Clark is on course for a collision course with LSU. LSU has to make sure they are not looking ahead to the matchup, because UCLA has everything that LSU struggles with. Andrew Reese, whenever there's a player that is taller than her, she struggles with size in the paint, whether or not they're her height, but she dominates smaller opponents. And so she's not going to be able to do that in this game. So she's going to have to play, and they're going to have to play a well-rounded game for LSU to be able to beat UCLA. But I still have Andrew Reese and them girls going up against Iowa to decide Region 2. And so in the end, I got in Region 1, I got South Carolina versus Notre Dame. Region 4, I got Texas versus Stanford. I got USC and UConn in Region 3. And in Region 2, I got Iowa getting their revenge possibility, getting an opportunity for revenge, to say the least, going up against LSU. And so bringing back my off top, where I'm not even necessarily going to go off any type of research that I've done. This is all off the top of the head, no stats, just based on how I feel. So Coach Cal in Kentucky once again comes up short, and we keep talking about this every year for the past 3 4 years. I think the last time they won a title was like 2013, 2014, but they've been had a first or second round exit in the past 4 rounds. And so it's like, should Coach Cal be fired? I don't think he should be fired. I think he's too great of a coach to just fire right now, but I do think he should be on the hot seat. And I've seen these reports, and I'm starting to lean and agree with it that the day and age where a freshman led team can just dominate, I think those days are over. And the NIL, the transfer portal, these are all things that you're thinking when you go back and you look at teams, the teams that are winning, go back and look at how their age. And it's like Baylor when they won, the average age was 22, 23 years old. Um, I believe UConn last year when they won, 22, 23 years old. So players are staying longer, going to more mid majors, having an impact, transferring to a bigger school where you're getting these players that are going from a Middle Tennessee State to going to play for Duke or play for UConn and getting these opportunities to make some real money while being in college. So why would I go to the league where I could possibly have a pay cut or even I can get paid to do this at a lesser level? And develop my game. And so I do think that he should not be fired, but he should definitely be on the hot seat because that day it's over for the freshmen. You got to get you some older. We done with the freshmen. Shout out to my boy. And then Aaron Donald has retired, um, which leads you to the question: is he the goat? I'm not gonna say he's the goat because I saw Reggie White. I seen Deion Deion Sanders. I was gonna say Deontay. Sheesh. Deion Sanders, prime time himself. I've seen I've seen the clips and I hear the stories of LT, Lawrence Taylor, and I'm not gonna disrespect what those guys were able to do and keep myself in the moment. Maybe within a couple years I'll be able to have this conversation once I can really absorb what I just watched. But I think that 10 years, eight all pros is nothing to just sniff at. And so I think that what he was able to do in his career, he played 10 years, eight all pros, 10-time Pro Bowl. He was definitely the best at his position and what he was able to do from a defensive tackle standpoint to where now you got scouts and teams looking for the next Aaron Donald. What he was able to do as a smaller 6 foot defensive tackle, being able to get after the quarterback, over 100 sacks from a defensive tackle is crazy. And so, especially in a 10-year gap, 10-year span. And so he's up there as I think if you were to do a Mount Rushmore, it'd be hard to leave him off. But at the same time, I do think that he's definitely in the GOAT conversation, but we're not there yet. I don't think we're there yet. We got to take a couple years. Let's go back and see how we feel about it. Because in the moment, we're going to say, yes, he is. But I don't want to disrespect Reggie White because the things that man was doing was wild. 16 sacks at 37 is crazy. And so, the women's NCAA tournament is lit, yo. Some of it I'm gonna talk about on the back end, but like I said, the rivalries, the trash talk, the names, attachment to stories has led to these things, which I talked about it a few weeks ago about whether or not they were more popular. Now it's been proven, or in at least in a report according to CBS, um, the women's national tournament had 6 times more tickets sold than the men's tournament. And so I think that, like I said, all these things that I've mentioned before are all of the reasons why the sport is more popular. One and dones, people playing for the G League Ignite, where that's over. People going overseas, and just the women's sport being furthered. You're getting Caitlin Clark coming in and shooting from Bora Bora. You're getting Juju coming in and making an impact right away. You have these big names who are being forced to stay in college for a couple years, where you have the possibility of leaving after one season in the men's division. And so I think all of these things are reasons why the women's tournament is definitely more lit. And there's one more thing I got to talk about before I get out of here. But if you never noticed, like when I was going through the bracket, there the bracket is by region, not by each side. And it's like certain teams are getting home games. Like I just watched USC played Kansas, and USC is at home, and I'm just like, what's going on here? How are we doing this? How's that happening? Like I get it if it happens by chance because you got certain teams that are on certain coasts. Like I mentioned, Purdue is an Indiana team, but they're playing in the Midwest. You got UConn who was out east. You got um, South Carolina who in the division that they were in is playing in the South. And it's like there's certain things where it's like, is this an unfair advantage? But I think going into it, if you know it, it gives you something to play for. So I don't really have an issue with either way because it's like in the NBA playoffs, you get home court advantage if you play well. And then so I think going into it, I do think it gives a little bit of an advantage, but it's not like they spring this on you and it just so happens to happen. It's like this is what's always been happening in the women's division when it comes to the tournament time. The better teams are getting home games rather than playing in a neutral site. Which leads me to the question, need some interaction from y'all. Which one would you prefer? That a tournament where the home teams or the better teams are getting home games, home court advantage, or if they should be playing in a neutral site. And so, with the time I got left, thank you all for watching. I got mock draft coming up. I got NFL draft breakdowns that I'm doing by position. On the next show, a week from today, I will be breaking down wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. The week of the draft, I will be doing a mock draft, and I also have combine breakdowns right now. Go on YouTube, Juke Media, subscribe, and watch the content. I'm gonna have the link in my bio on Instagram for the combine breakdown video that I did with my boy Tarian, who is my NFL analyst. Shout out to him. But like I said, like, subscribe, comment, share, and all that good stuff. Like the Facebook page, He Say She Say channel. We got the He Say She Say podcast coming back next month as well. Make sure you go on YouTube, J.U.K. Media, and subscribe and comment on all of those videos. Follow us at Juke Sports Show, J.U.K. Sports Show. Follow me at KYNGRALPH on all platforms. Add an underscore for X or Twitter. Got an audio only episode dropping in the morning and a live episode coming back to you on Friday. Thank you all for watching. I got to get up out of here. And like always in my shows, love, peace, and the Aces 3P.